Evolution. Excellence. Knowledge. Hybrid Rhinoplasty Excellence Training.
Y la experiencia ha sido absolutamente espectacular.
Si quieres ser mejor, tienes que aprender de los mejores.
La parte de disección en cadáver, pudimos aprovechar todo lo que nos han enseñado.
HRED 2024. Miami, USA.
Es de una experiencia totalmente recomendable.
Tenemos estos cambios innovadores de la rinoplastía híbrida y la rinoplastía conservadora del dorso.
Doctores de 15 países, las pláticas espectaculares, Cadaver Lab es primer mundo.
Y todos hemos tenido desde el primer día un acompañamiento bastante cercano, que es importante.
Com todos os mestres que vêm aqui, né, você consegue aprender cada coisa, cada pequeno detalhe, né?
The best surgeons in the world together to a unique experience. Totally hands-on.
Vas a aprender todo lo que todavía, esos pequeños tips que te faltan y que siempre tienes que estar preparándote.
Técnicas, detalles y la experiencia en los cadáveres, la verdad que da una seguridad increíble, el hecho de poder tener un tutor al lado.
Technique, technology, safety. Come with us to the future of hybrid rhinoplasty.
Me siento como en una familia acá.
Y qué mejor que complementar con una práctica en disección de cadáver para reafirmar todos esos tips que hemos aprendido. De verdad.
E tenho certeza que depois do evento eu sou um cirurgião de nariz melhor e tenho certeza que todo mundo vai levar bastante aprendizado aí para casa.
Evolution, knowledge and excellence. September 2024. Subscribe now. Hello, colleagues and friends, rhinoplasty lovers. Today I have again an amazing pleasure here to have my brother, Dr. Gustavo Gosling. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I thank myself for being part of this amazing project and always be having you as my brother in rhinoplasty and life now. And so for me, it's a pleasure, man.
Oh, thank you so much. So we are on the third edition of our hybrid rhinoplasty excellence training in Miami. And I'm very proud to have Gosling as our special guest on these 3 years. So he's already part of our course, part of our program, and he helped me since the first edition, bringing his expertise and all his knowledge in rhinoplasty. And I always tell him, and I want to say here in public, that I consider him one of the best, or maybe the best rhinoplasty surgeon in the world. So thank you so much, my friend, for being part of that. And today we're going to talk about his new lecture, and I'm anxious to see his lecture, what he's bringing to us. And I also want to take this opportunity to invite you that is watching here us today. If you are from Brazil, Latin America, or Europe, we are preparing very carefully an amazing program in our course this year. On purpose, I invited special guests with amazing results, but different approaches, different philosophies. So in one side, we have surgeons that do structural rhinoplasty, a lot of extracorporeal septoplasty. On the other hand, we have preservation rhinoplasty surgeons, some of them specialists in high strip, some of them specialists in low strip, and also we have Gosling, Elena, and myself. We like hybrid rhinoplasty to mix all these techniques. So I did it on purpose because I want to show you that is going to be with us in September in Miami, that you can achieve amazing results with different approaches. So in my mind, first you have to learn the techniques, increase your arsenal to treat any kind of nose, and then you check which one is best in your practice, which one you feel more comfortable, and do your mastering on these techniques. Today, nowadays, we have so many different techniques, so I think that you have to learn everything, but at the end, maybe master yourself in some techniques that really works in your practice, really works in your hands and in your population. Depending on your country, you have different kind of noses. So it's going to be amazing. And I didn't tell you this, Gosling, but we're also preparing on the first day a session exclusively on um, uh, marketing and office management. So
Nice.
I believe that the rhinoplasty surgeon, they have to learn not only the techniques, but they have to learn how to build a successful career in rhinoplasty. So that nowadays depends on marketing, depends on a good leadership on his team, on his office, and how to grow on this field of rhinoplasty. So I want people to learn techniques, but also to be successful on their careers. And at the end of our event, I want to bring a special session also, talking about something that we never have in big meetings, which is complications. So any of any surgeon have complications, and I want to bring the masters to share their most common complications and how they deal with these complications. And I think it's going to be amazing, and I hope each one that's going to be there with us, they can leave this meeting with a lot of tools to put on their practice in the rhinoplasty, but also in their office, and also to earn more money with that and make profits in their career as well. So thank you, Gosling, for being part of that. And please feel free to start your lecture.
All right. So I'm going to talk about something that I've been having this on my mind. It's can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
All right. So I mean, let's talk a little bit about how I've been approaching the dorsal lines. What's my philosophy there? Of course, there are many different ways to treat or to improve the dorsal static lines. And I'll tell you a little bit about my experience. This, like I always say, everything I'm telling you is not the whole truth. It's not something that you have to always have a step back. Everything I'm showing you, this is what I've been doing right now. Maybe in 1 year, I might change everything because we're still evolving, we're still learning, but this has been working very well so far. So when we talk about, just one, this is my, how to say that? My, como se fala?
Your CV, your curriculum, your CV.
Yeah, there's nothing special. And just so people can see, this was last year. We were together in Miami. It was an amazing course, and a lot of new friends from a lot of places, and we had a lot of fun, learned a lot, and I can't wait to be there again this year. So, what could I say? Dorsal static lines, I think it is a hard subject because it's not that simple. Usually when I have a problem, is in the dorsal. Like we were talking about, chip is difficult. Now we evolved a lot on chip, right? So I've been going back to the dorsal as a challenge for me because, of course, with preservation, I'm going to talk about it. It's a little bit easier, but usually when I have a problem, it's a dorsal problem, not a chip problem. So because the dorsal, I mean, is a little bit complex. We always talk about the lights and shadows. So we are creating volume where we want light, and we are decreasing the volume where we want shadow. So that's how the rhinoplasty is basically, we're just changing the volume where we want, giving volume where we want light. And the dorsal satellite is basically it. So the more you can control the maneuvers you're doing on the structure under the skin, the better looking your dorsal line is gonna look. So how can I improve my dorsal lines? How can I have results like this? I could say the easiest way to get results like this is preservation rhinoplasty, of course. With preservation rhinoplasty, we have a more natural contour and shape. We have a smoother dorsal lines, and we don't need a lot of graft to do that. So we can use the patient's own dorsum. All right. We have a lot of good friends and surgeons that have perfect results of dorsal result using structural rhinoplasty but that comes with the cost. It costs too much grafts and too much camouflage. So when you do techniques that preserve the structure and preserve the ligaments, preserve the soft tissue, and you can have perfect results with no cartilage at all, or even no dissection at all, right? One thing I have to tell you in my practice, but I've been joking about it, is we call it non-ultrasonic rhinoplasty, because I've been working like my whole life, and I've tried a piezo. I've been, of course, I couldn't do what I do without my magic saws, right? But if you have a magic saws and you have a regular osteotomy for the lateral osteotomy, you basically have a manual piezo. So with the piezo, I can have thinner cuts to the bone. So I can do, compared to the piezo, it's a very thin cut. So it's really precise, right? I think it's faster to cut and it's cheaper. I could say it's safer. I think it's safer. I mean, you could do safer because you're not doing like a hard tool to burn. You're not going to burn the skin or make a puncture on the skin with a drill or a piezo. And I think it's safer. Yes, of course, it's going to require more skills and experience and have a slower learning curve. Of course, if you're beginning, it's a little bit harder, but I can say it's safer, faster, and cheaper to use magic saws like this. Okay. So like we all know that the dorsal lines, these two curves that come from the eyebrow all the way to the chip defining points. It should be as a curve like this, and it's shown in the picture. Usually it's the perfect dorsal lines should be wider at the eyebrows, thinner in the middle, and gets wider back in the tip, right? But one curious thing about it, because we know this shape, but actually if you look inside the nose, it's exactly the opposite. So it's thinner at the radix, is wider at the K area, and it's thinner back at the suprachip area. So you have to have this shape in mind. Every time you're reconstructing the dorsum, you're building, you're working on the dorsum, you have to have this shape. It's fusiform shape, right? So it's the opposite. It's thinner on the top, it's wider in the middle, and thinner in the bottom, creating this fusiform shape. So that's always when you're doing reconstruction, when you're doing preservation, you have to have this shape in mind, right? Because it's all about the soft tissue envelope, right? You have many layers of tissues, and we have this image came in a group today. It came very handy. You have like pockets of fat inside the nose, in specific area of the nose. So when we consider all this, you can see that can you see my mouse, the arrow of the mouse? Perfect. You can see that the line we want is like this, but inside is exactly the opposite. So if you don't have that in mind, you're not gonna have a perfect line, right? So how do I treat the dorsum? All right. Most of the times I do preservation rhinoplasty, right? But so I always try to do, I mean, depends on the case, but whenever I do surface techniques, Usually I like surface techniques that remove the bony cap, right? So spare hoof A or Ishida, or just a superficial shaving, shaving the cartilage and shaving the bony cap, right? So what happens is that you get this off and you have this. This is the final result before you start working on the bone, right? But this applies, the same thing applies if you're doing spreader flaps. That's if you preserve the cartilage under the bony cap. That's what I always do when I do resection, because I do resection sometimes. I try to preserve the cartilage under the bony cap, right? And do the splatter flap all the way inside, right? Or spreader grafts, doesn't matter. The final result is this, but if you look here, remember I was telling you about the fusiform shape. So if you're gonna do spreader flaps, spreader grafts like this, it's not gonna look good, probably, at the end, because it's too wide. Remember that it's supposed to be wider here and thinner here. So it's not supposed to be straight. If you're doing straight spreader graft like this, of course, sometimes we need to do extended spreader grafts that has to go all the way. So what I do, I bevel a little bit the bottom part, the caudal part of the spreader graft on the top, so it really gets me the fusiform shape. So that's how it's supposed to look at the end when you're closing the nose on a spreader graft, or if we're doing spreader flap. So the technique I like most when I'm doing spreader flaps is the split spreader flap from Renato de Souza, which we just do the flap on the cephalic 2/3 of and the bottom third, the caudal third, we don't do flap, we just resect it and suture it straight to the septum here. So you have more volume here, and you have less volume here. For me, that's the best technique for reconstructing if you're not using spreader grafts. I always try to use spreader flap. So usually I use spreader graft when I have to do some symmetry work, but if it's symmetrical, I just do spreader flap and I try to save cartilage for the chip, right? So whatever the technique you use on the middle vault, right? Usually you have this, you have an open roof. Of course, we try to open the roof, the bony roof, but we have to try to preserve the cartilage under this bony roof, right? So we don't have an open, really open roof, right? What I like to think, I don't like to stick to measurements too much. Usually I just look and see if it's wide for me, if I like it, but I know it's around 7 to 8 millimeters, right? So usually 90% of my patients, at least, they already have a good middle vault, right? This width here is perfect already. So the problem mostly it's on the bone here, right? So this middle vault, it's already, of course, some cases you need to do some maneuvers to get it thinner or get it wider, but 90% of the cases I see a good middle vault, okay? So what I do, I just look at the shoulder and I imagine the shoulder going all the way to the radix, doing that fusiform shape, right? So I have to imagine this line because I'm not gonna touch here anymore. So I'm just gonna do the bony work, all right? So to get a perfect line like this on the dorsal static lines, what I see people do sometimes, they come here where they see this light and they start cutting right here. And that's wrong, I think, in my head. Because if you want a light right here, you need volume. You don't need a hole there. If you make a canal, if you're making a hole with a piezo or if your handsaw, this is gonna get you shadow here. And I want the shadow to be next to it. So what I do, I cut right next to it, not on it, but right next to it, all right? So if I cut it right next to this, I create a border here going along with the shoulder of my mid-third, all right? So the idea is to have a continuity of this border with this border of the bone, not a hole here. If I make a hole right here, the light's gonna shine right here on the side of it. So I make the hole on the side of where I want the light to be, okay? This is the most important thing of this lecture, I think, all right? After that, I do hemi-transverse cuts, I always use my magic saws. I think it works perfect. I do that. It takes 15 seconds to cut the bone. All right. Of course, I do a green stick. When I do push down, I don't use this cut. I prefer to do transcutaneous osteotomy, but I use the magic saws just to do a green stick. All right, to control my osteotomies. Okay. So here, just showing practice. So I'm following the shoulder of the mid-third, and I'm just making my cut. It's really, really fast with the saws. And usually you can even preserve the internal periosteum because you're feeling the bone scratching, then it gets really smooth. When it gets smooth, that's because you're through the bone. And if you cut more, you're going to cut the periosteum, but you can even preserve the internal periosteum just like with the piezo, right? And now I'm using the lateral, the hemi-transverse osteotomy with the lateral magic saw. So it's really fast. You don't have to do a lot. Like I said, it's just a green stick. So when I break the bone, it goes in exactly where I want, right? And now I do. So I did this cut here. I did this cut here. And now I do this lateral cut. Usually I use a 4mm guided osteotome. I usually go high. I preserve the Webster triangle, go low and low, all right, and meet all the way to the end of my hemi-transverse osteotomy, right? And break the bone inside, all right? So if you see here, there is an island of bone in the middle, right? You can see the shadow created here, because the bone is going under the bridge, okay? So if you think this bone is not completely loose because it's still stuck to the periosteum and the soft tissue under it, so it's not gonna go anywhere. It's not gonna fall inside your nose. You know, what we need to do is like a frame of the light that we want here, and everything else we're gonna bury inside, making the shadow on the outside, right? So the main thing here is we have a central aspect here that is fixed to the frontal bone. So this bridge is strong. You can rasp it and get it to the height you get. Usually, this you can preserve some of it. Of course, sometimes you have to open a little bit more, but you can always preserve this. So you have this fixed bridge in the middle, which is strong. You can even rasp it after the osteotomy because it's fixed. All right, and it follows the shape of the middle vault. So it's going all the way here, and you have a lateral aspect. This lateral aspect goes like this, go a little bit under the middle of the bridge, right? So when we do that, think of here, we have this. I have this border of which will create the light of my dorsal statue line, the shine of the light here, that is following my mid-third, going to the upper third, and all the lateral aspect is going to be under. So if you have like a instability of this lateral, because sometimes you break the bone and it kind of falls a little bit like this. Look, this is not going to compromise my dorsal statue line because my dorsal statue lines are made by the lateral margin of my central aspect of the dorsal. So this border here is what's creating the perfect dorsal statue line. So it's a very stable dorsal statue line, and it's not created by the anterior part of the lateral aspect of the bone. Okay, so I'm not using this border for my dorsal statue line. I'm using this border to create my dorsal statue line. So even if you have some instability, it doesn't matter if your bone. I don't know if you can see it, but even if your bone is gonna glue here or here or here, it's not going to change your dorsal statue line because you have a fixed dorsal statue line. This is very, very important, right? So what you should never do, what I did many, many times before, is just do a paramedian cut like this and a low osteotomy and hope that you're going to break here, fracture perfectly. That's probably not going to happen. I had issue with that because I didn't understand it too much. And I did this many times, and you get some steps here. It sucks. It's awful. So I like I said, I don't want to count on luck. I want to cut the bone with precision, and I avoid community fracture, right? So I could do that if you have a really small distance between the paramedian cut and the lateral osteotomy. If it's this distance, is like very little, like 5 millimeters, maximum 8 millimeters, you could do that. But what I do to guarantee that it's not going to break here, I go a little bit higher with my lateral osteotomy. So I pass through the tendon here. I go a little bit higher. So I work with the bone flexibility. So as I go higher, the bone gets softer. And I try to just massage the bone, massage, and make it like a micro fractures of the bone. So I don't have like a complete fracture. You have to understand that the bone is flexible. The nasal bone is flexible. You can squeeze it. You can reshape it without cutting it, all right? Especially when you release it, it kind of a tendency to close it like this, right? So sometimes I do that when I don't want to open it, when I don't want to dissect. Maybe sometimes you have a really good dorsum, or you already have a good dorsostatic lines. I just want to do lateral osteotomy, so I go higher, so my wall folds in easier, okay? And when you have a really wide bone vault like this, so imagine here, I already have my middle vault worked. It's already on the width I like. It's already good, but I have to work now on this area here, and it's very, very wide. It's over 8 millimeters, not following the shadow, the light, the shoulder of the. So what I do in these cases, I do the same thing. I just follow the line, do the cut exactly what I want, right? Continuing the border all the way up. But I do another osteotomy. I do an intermediate osteotomy, okay? Just like a spare roof B, okay? I do some osteectomy. We take off this bone, the excess of bone, all right? So I take this triangle, but it's not a spare roof B. I'm not bringing the bony cap down. It's already on the height I want. I'm just removing a little bit of this horizontal area before it turns. So I'm giving space so my wall goes like this, okay? So I'm just creating some space to bring my the lateral aspect inside like this, and do my intermediate hemi-transverse cuts. And of course, when it's wide on the bottom, I like to do a double osteotomy. So I do like a high, low, a higher osteotomy first, then a lower osteotomy all the way down, to make it a double osteotomy on the bottom. It's not like one in the middle and one in the bottom. There are two in the bottom. So when you have more effectiveness when you are trying to make this deeper, all right? So like I said, the same thing happens. You have this central aspect, fix it to the forehead, and you're burying everything else under it. So you guarantee that you're having a perfect, fixed and stable dorsostatic lines, okay? And just to show you, this is a very wide case, so I'm going to do a double osteotomy. I already have my mid vault perfect and the width I want. The bone is very wide. The base of the bone is very wide, so I'm doing the high osteotomy, normal, all the way to my lateral osteotomy. Sorry, it was really fascinating, but I did the double osteotomy. It was really a little bit fast, but I'm going all the way up, come back, go up again. I squeeze it a little bit for 5 minutes so it won't bleed, and it's done. So it's really fast. And since you have this, because like I said, you can have problems on the paramedian, on the hemi-transverse cut, but the lateral osteotomy usually is not a big problem if you have some small defects there. The problems are always here on the middle, right? So that's why it's really fast, it's safe. If you prepare the dorsum with your magic saws, usually when you cut here, the bone just go like this, and it's not gonna break any different than what you want. all right? But of course, this is when I do surface techniques, because I'm not doing impactation, right? When I'm doing impactation, is a little bit different, right? So what I've been doing is whenever I'm doing like a Saban or SPQR or Koto, I do this banana osteotomy. For me, I used to do a straight osteotomy. This is, for me, this is just perfect because it fits perfect when you leave this gap and then you do the rotation of the bone and it matches the floor. And I mean, it's perfect. I really love this. And I usually preserve this 2 or 3 millimeters in the middle, and I don't dissect whenever I can. I don't dissect the periosteum here. So I release the bone without releasing all the way. So I'm just creating like a bisagra. How to say that in English? Like a
pivot point.
A pivot point, yeah. So it's a pivot point. So it's not a step. What I try to do. Okay, not a step.
A hinge.
A hinge, right? So I release it really slowly. So I keep some soft tissue there, and it's not gonna go all the way down. And it's really nice so you can not feel a step. And remember, the bone is flexible. You can change the shape of the bone. Usually you can get it in. You don't need to do, if you're doing like a banana osteotomy, and if you have a good dorsum, you're probably not gonna need paramedial osteotomy, right? So it's gonna get thinner. It's gonna get thinner, right? So some final thoughts, like regardless of the technique. I mean, I don't want to sell that about the piezo is bad or is good. It doesn't matter how you cut. What matters is giving a controlled osteotomy and giving a precise cut. This is what matters. It doesn't matter if it's with a magic saw, hand saw, if it's a drill, or if it's a piezo. It doesn't matter what's better suits you. Remember that these dorsal static lines will all work better in higher bridges. So if you're making this bridge low, low, and low, you're gonna have a hard time getting this dorsal static lines better, right? And remember, one thing important about this lecture is don't use the medial border of the lateral aspect of the fracture for your dorsal static lines. You're using the lateral border of the central aspect of the dorsal, okay? This border is attached to the frontal, so you won't have problems, right? And this is the main thing, because I've seen some fellows that came, they see the shape, but they don't understand how important this fusiform shape is when you're reconstructing the nose. So always make the K area wider than the supratip area, right where the Waza point. So this is gonna make you, you're gonna make prettier noses and more natural noses like this. What else? I guess that's all I had to say for today. What else, my friend? What could you talk about?
Amazing, my friend. One question. When you have cases that you have to do the lateral key area release, the ballerina, can you perform that, or you don't need to perform that when you do the osteotomies releasing the lateral wall? How is that?
You know, it's interesting you said it. I was supposed to have a slide on that. All right. The best cases I have, if you look at my Instagram, this case, like, let me try this case here. I did a spare roof and I did a ballerina. I don't know what happens. Every time I do ballerina, the dorsal, and I do ballerina, I'm saying not on a foundation technique, right? Or no impactation. When I'm not doing impactation, but I'm doing some work here, some cartilage impact, push down.
Spare roof A or spare roof.
Whenever I do ballerina, it looks better. I don't know why. It looks a lot better. So I even start thinking about doing a little ballerina when I'm doing spreader flaps. I don't know, you know, not all the way. Of course, you're not gonna release everything, but maybe here on the bottom, on the piriform ligaments, I don't know. When I release, I have a better control. Of course, when you release it, the middle vault is gonna get thinner. Then you get a kind of sort of like a inverted V, but after you fracture, boom, it gets a lot better, you know. So yeah, like I said, I've been thinking about doing it even on spreader flaps a little bit, you know. Of course, on specific cases maybe, but I didn't talk about ballerina here. But yeah, I suppose it works and improves a little bit. I think somehow I cannot explain it why, but it works a lot.
Perfect. Yeah, I think your dorsal aesthetic lines are perfect. That was my doubt, because when you show that fracture on the dorsum, the hemitransversal fracture and the lateral fracture, it seems that the bone is released, especially if you dissected the skin, right? And my doubt was if in these cases that you did all these fractures, you still can do ballerina, or you think it's gonna be too loose, the bony fragment.
I mean, I'm relying on my L-strut that is intact, right, in the middle. I have this bridge that is completely intact in the middle. I mean, I don't have problems at the bone, like a breathing problem that the bone went all the way in. Now he can breathe. Usually that's not where the problem happens. Usually it's more here, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of problem. I don't have many issue with that. So remember that I cut it, the bone goes in, but it's not gonna fall like all the way in. It has a limit, right? Even sometimes you want to squeeze it a little bit more, it's not gonna go anywhere because you have all the periosteum inside. I mean, unless you're really destroying, I don't know, but if you're doing with precision, usually you can put the bone inside a little bit and create, but it's not that unstable. And of course, if you're not doing like full open approach in everybody, you have more, more tissue. It's a little more stable, you know. But I've been doing sometimes I do like a full open approach. Don't change too much. It's not a big problem. Also, I think.
Yeah, I think what you showed here, Gosling, was simply amazing. You know, because even myself, I do as a routine rhinoplasties, but I never thought about that comparison that you did from the dorsal aesthetic line desired outside, when you look outside, and what is really inside, right? Because our mind is trained to think like on the tip, what you have there, you open the skin and it matches the structure. But I never thought about the dorsal.
Yeah, because you have a lot of soft tissue here. Here's the skin thicker. You have muscle here. You have like fat pads, and here you have all the ligaments, and the skin is thicker here. So yeah, you can, if you open a perfect nose, you're gonna see it's going like this to the Waza point. The Waza point is always thinner, right? So that's one thing I've been like when I'm doing revision, because it's harder. Everything is destroyed. You're doing spreader grafts. Usually, we all have a tendency to make it thicker. At the end, it's thicker because you're doing all the spreader. Usually, you have to do standard spreader, and then you have the lateral, upper lateral going, and then at the end, you sum everything, and it's wide. No, so that's one thing I've been paying attention. Like when I'm reconstructing, I measure. That's when I measure. You know. So I like to give like 5 millimeters of the septum with the spreader graft, with 5 millimeters. It has to have 5, because there's 1 millimeter more of upper lateral on this side. There's 1 millimeter more of upper lateral on the other side. So you have around 7.
Okay.
And it should go as thin as the septum at the end, like, you know. So you can do a shorter spreader, like just 1 centimeter spreader, if you don't need extended spread to hold your septal extension graft or something. Or I do like a higher sphygmograph, and I bevel, like I said, and I make the extended sphygmograph going under the bridge, under the dorsal, so I can close it without getting wider, and I still have the sphygmograph, the extended sphygmograph going under the bridge, But I think if you have this design, when you're always doing whatever, you have spare hoof, spread a flap, spread a graft, reconstruction. This is the image you have to have. This fusiform shape is the main thing you have to. If you do a straight dorsum and you add the ligaments and you add the,
it's not gonna be.
It's not gonna be so good.
Yeah.
And another thing I've been doing different, because I used to do like spare hoof. I used to do a lot of spare hoof. Now I've been doing more saban. I don't know. These things have changed because I don't have to deal with the step. I just break everything down. It's easier. But I used to do a lot of suprapericondrial approach on the dorsal, and now something that changed my life. I started doing only subpericondrial approach on the dorsal. Typically, I'd go supra, but on the dorsal, I preserve, because the pericondium on the dorsal, when you open it, it looks so thin. It looks like a membrane. But when you start dissecting the pericondium, it's actually really thick. And when you release everything and you suture it back to the position, it's another important thing to make your dorsal look good. And something I've been doing, just like bodies, they suture I try to preserve, I cut, because here is a little bit easier to get a subpericondial, right? So I go here, I dissect to the side, where the vertical ligament is. I cut it, and at the end, just like I learned from body check here, I suture the caudal border of the upper lateral. I suture the pericondial back. It looks amazing. And it's a little bit thicker. So if you have to, because sometimes I used to go a suprapericondial and I have to shave a lot, and you're destroying the pericondial. So if you do it under the pericondial, you can shave it whatever you want, and then you have a blanket above it. So and you're not hurting the muscles fibers. You're not hurting vases and arteries or something. So I've been doing really dissecting subpericondial, superiosteal on the dorsal. It changed the game for me, I think.
And when you have to do a dorsal augmentation, do you also do exactly this shape?
Always. You have to have this. I mean, I try. We try, right? Yeah, but yeah, I always do like this. Like I said, I've had cases that I did a straight dorsum. The construction looks amazing, but at the end, I don't like it. It's too wide. And I don't know why, because I took all this mass off. I took all this fiber off, like the bridges like this, So when I started looking at this better, more and more, I mean, you just have to, you're going to build it, right? So you can do a small spread grafts. You can do a triangular shape, right? Wider at the key area, getting thinner at the W point, whatever. But that's the main thing to get a good dorsostatic lines, I think.
Amazing, my friend. Amazing insight. Amazing thing, because I never thought about that. Yeah, it was really.
Yeah, see when you look when I explained this to you, when you open the nose now, you're gonna look and it's right in front of you, and we don't see it.
Yeah.
Just like the puzzle thing, it's like in front of us, and we don't see it.
Exactly.
And we need to understand how it works.
I'll try this week.
Yeah, you see, it's gonna happen. Let me know.
Yeah. Of course, I'll text you this week and I'll show you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was really amazing. So, for those who are watching us, as I said in the beginning, Gosling is a brother, and he's with us in the course since the first edition, and he's already confirmed for this year as well in September in Miami, and that's what I said about him. I think he's genius in many aspects of rhinoplasty, not only on the tip, but also on the dorsum. And he's always bringing new things, because not because he read this in a book or an article, because really he has a different uh, eye on the nose, and that's what I think it's so special about you, my friend. You are always analyzing. You have this artistic side, and I really have to congratulate you. I'm very um, proud of you, proud of your success, and also uh, grateful for everything that I learned from you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for the words, my friend. For me, it's an honor. I learn a lot from you. I owe you a lot. I feel like I owe you a lot, for in this ride of my personal life. And now that we became brothers, we are friends, and I'm really happy to be part, like I said, of this. And you can always count on me. I'll always be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So for those who are going to our course in September, this is what we have there. We have really a huge family of rhinoplasty lovers. That's like this picture. A really good energy, good vibes, and people are there never competing. We're there learning from each other, sharing experiences, and maybe if you're lucky, you're gonna be in a table dissecting your cadaver, and Gosling will be, or
Be a pleasure.
your mentor there. So that's what we have this year. One piece, one cadaver per student. Okay, one cadaver per student, and I separated some demonstration dissections. Gosling will perform in one of the cadavers, and at Mark Institute in Miami, we ordered this year a special preparation that is exclusive from Mark. That is a technique that makes the specimen perfect. It looks like a fresh cadaver. So I was this week there. I did a dissection, and I recorded also to show you. I'm going to show you, my friend. It's amazing. So I think you're gonna be able to show in details this mass, the muscles, the structures, the which plane are you dissecting. So I'm really excited, really excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. I'm really excited too.
Yeah. So thank you again, my friend. Um, I'm going to see you many times this year. We're together in many meetings. So thank you so much for everything. And for those who decide to go there, we're going to be their focus on changing your practice for a better level in rhinoplasty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Have a good night. It was nice being here with you one more time.
Thank you.
Once upon a younger year, when all our shadows disappeared, the animals inside came out to play. Went face to face with all our fears, learned our lessons through the tears, made memories we knew would never fade. One day my father, he told me, son, don't let it slip away. He took me in his arms, I heard him say, when you get older, your wild heart will live for younger days. Think of me if ever you're afraid. He said one day you'll leave this world behind, so live a life you will remember. My father told me when I was just a child, these are the nights that never die. My father told me. Light a fire they can't put out, carve your name into those shining stars. He said go venture far beyond the shores, don't forsake this life of yours. I'll guide you home no matter where you are. One day my father, he told me, son, don't let it slip away. When I was just a kid I heard him say, when you get older your wild heart will live for younger days. Think of me if ever you're afraid. He said one day you'll leave this world behind, so live a life you told me